From Shelbyville now. I'm David Thomas, and with me today I have Dr. Tammy Garrett, Superintendent of Schools, and Ms. Carol Garrett, the Director of Communications. Is that correct?
That's
okay.
correct.
So, ladies, I appreciate you getting out in this nasty weather that we have today. Let's talk about the weather. Dr.
Yes.
Garrett, I know that there's been some question about whether or not schools should be closed today because of wind and the storms,
Yes.
possibly. So how do you go about making that decision?
Well, one of the key factors I always call first is the Emergency Management Association. David Kitchens is Scott Johnson before that. Now David Kitchens is a great asset to our county. He sends us reports on when the weather should come in. We also have a superintendent thread, which all the superintendents communicate together, communicate with our transportation director and our safety director. I will call also the dispatch of Shelbyville Police and also Bedford County Sheriff's Department. And so today it appeared from emergency management weather report that it would come in between 10 and 2:30.
Right.
The weather. We were only, most of the county was at a level 1. The very bottom of the county was a level 2. So the risk of severe weather was really low.
Right.
So as we're thinking about that, we have a large population of students who live in campers, RVs, mobile homes, and when their parents go to work, they have to stay by themselves. So since it was not coming in when we would be on buses or in cars, I felt that the students would be safer in the brick and mortar buildings.
Sure.
If, in case of a windstorm, rather than being home alone. And so we decided to come. Everyone got to school safely this morning. We anticipate the weather moving out before we dismiss. And so next week too, we have snow coming in. So we kind of factor that in. We have very cold weather next week. We have snow coming in, and parents have bills to pay.
Right.
And if they would have been off today, which we really, didn't feel that was necessary, and if we have several days next week, people have a hard time paying bills.
Yeah.
And because of lack of childcare, we always are going to think about student safety. That's our number one, how, and our staff safety.
Sure.
But today we felt like the weather would come while they were in school, and buildings are safe. We got, safe buildings, more secure than a lot of homes. So that's how we reached the decision today.
I know let's just talk about the snow possibility. I know Monday and Tuesday, we're out Monday anyway.
We are.
And then you've got the potential for some snow on the ground Monday night, Tuesday, possibly Wednesday, as cold as it's going to be. I know the decision is a little bit different than it is today with wind and storm, but how do you make that decision when you go into a snow event?
Well, my husband will say I make him drive me around at 3 o'clock in the morning. He didn't know he was signing up for that when I took
he didn't
this
sign
job.
up for it.
But he's a trooper, and he'll always go out with me because, a couple of times you want to stop and walk on the sidewalks to see if they are icy, because we don't want staff and parents and kids getting hurt and slipping and falling. So we ride the roads. I have a lot of folks that'll help me. Daniel Klein-Dents will ride the roads. Kenny Parker will ride the roads.
Right.
And we know which areas usually are the rough areas. We also, again, will talk to David Kitchens in emergency management. We talk to dispatch. We talk to Shelbyville Police. Are you seeing any areas of concern? So we know where to go. We know what areas are normally areas of concern that we need to go to. Longview Road many times is my spot because it can get slick in some dips. We talk to other superintendent. There's a joke that you never want to be the donut hole.
Okay.
So you don't want to be the only one that's open on the map.
Right.
And everybody else around you.
Right.
So we kind of look at that as superintendents and talk. We have a thread that goes out, and we were on that this morning. This morning, if you look, most of the ones that are closed are either east of us or south of us.
Right.
Those surrounding us were also open. So, and then next week, we've got to look at the cold, because if you've got single digits and wind chills below 0, and you've got students standing out, to catch the bus, it's tough. So that's what we'll look at, but we try to keep parents and their need to work and pay bills and all of that in our minds as well.
I think it's pretty neat. I've lived here my whole life, and I remember when it snowed, and kids want to know whether you were going to school or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of those kids, but I had a driver's license. I'd get out and look and see where, and I learned there's some spots you can go to and know when it starts to melt and it's gone. Okay, is there ice still at that place? You could go to that place and it would be there, and it would freeze up first too.
Yes.
And there's spots that you can go to on the roadways. It's just kind of neat. There's a spot right now I'm thinking of as a child. I'll go to it this coming week and look, and yep, there it is. And it's just weird how that happens. It's shaded or it's like raised just a little bit, those spots.
Yeah.
And people might not see that and then wonder why you cancel schools.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And we have 8 days built in. We go 30 minutes extra a day to stockpile those days. And so we have 8 days that you can work with. If you're out more than 8 days, you're making those up on either spring break
Right.
or the end of the year. So we hadn't had any days so far. In the fall, sometimes you
Right.
have to have some flood days.
Right.
So this year we've not used the flood days. Sometimes the first week of January can be rough. We've not
Right.
used them yet. We're mid-January. We're probably going to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
I heard this morning from some superintendents that next Thursday it may snow again. So we're looking at a
Yeah.
rough week next week.
Yeah, the cold air is going to be in place. I've been watching the computer models, and it looks like we might get 1 to 3 inches maybe here, and it's going to lay around, and then another opportunity. So you could have multiple days coming up. So
yes.
if we do go over that, does that just extend the school year, or does it take it? You were talking about taking off spring break.
Yeah, you have to put it somewhere, whether you
Right.
have days kind of in there somewhere or go another time. But I think we're going to be, unless we have a hard February, we should be in good shape this year.
Okay, so the state of Tennessee, I assume, dictates those
Yes.
days. All right, let's just shift gears and shift into, one thing. Go ahead.
Can I
Sure,
add one
Carol.
more thing onto
Sure.
it? Because from my perspective, what we start seeing in terms of as soon as they start talking, those meteorologists start talking about bad weather, we start getting individual messages via our instant messaging or our Facebook or Instagram
Right.
instant messaging. We begin to get individuals texting us, messaging us and asking, are we out of school? Are you going to close? They want to
Right.
know. And
Right.
I understand that. So one thing I wanted to make sure that everybody understands is that just as soon as Dr. Garrett and her team of decision makers on whether we're going to be open or closed, as soon as she knows we're closed, she's going to let me know.
Right.
And then we immediately begin notifying in a
Right.
variety of ways. We have several tools. The first thing I'm going to do is pop it onto the top of our website.
Right.
So the Bedford County Schools District website, I'm going to put it there, and then I'm going to push it through the website to the app. Then I'm going to push it also to social media
Right.
immediately. So it's good. We have a Facebook platform, we have
Sure.
an Instagram channel, and we have a X, formerly Twitter, channel as well. So plenty of ways to find it. We're going to pop it there really quickly. And when I know that bad weather is being forecast, I've got everything sitting there ready so I can do it as
Right.
quickly as possible. Then we're also going to notify you if you would
Right.
like for us to. We're going to notify our local media, our local radio stations, our local papers. We're going to let them know too. And then last but not least, I'm going to reach out to our television stations in the
Right.
Nashville area. There's 4 of them, 2, 4, 5, and 17, so they can get that on there too. So lots of ways for people to find out whatever their favorite tool is there, whether it's the web, whether it's social media, whether it's local media, whether it's television media, lots of ways to find out. But just know that that's what we're doing as fast as possible. Then Dr. Garrett also, after she has notified staff, that's the first thing she's going to notify too after she tells me, she's doing an all call to parents.
Right.
And that goes out voice, auto call to parents, and it goes out via email if they have that checked in the system that they allow us to send those to them. So
Well,
lots of ways to find out. They don't have to feel like they have to ask us
Right.
individually.
I've noticed that the
Mhm.
communications has gotten so good lately. You guys really are communicating about everything that's going on. And if you don't, well, if you're on planet Earth, you're going to hear about it. Okay. And that's the way you guys are. And I know this community appreciates the way you guys are communicating.
Well, we have a great communications director and
Yeah.
her team. They do a good job, and
Yeah.
it makes a difference. One of the great things, speaking of emergencies and inclement weather, one of the things that I got word of this week we are going to be able to work with emergency management to put a generator at Cartwright Elementary School.
Wow.
And it will hold in case of an emergency in our community. It's large enough that could be a place that people seek shelter,
Right.
and we'll have a generator. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. That's a fantastic service. If they can get that pulled off, that'd be
Yes.
awesome.
Great
And
resource.
That would take a large generator too.
Well, I think we're going to be able to get grant funding in
Awesome.
order to do that, because we don't have that particular service in our community. And they reached out to me, and I was like, yes. I love the way our community networks and
Yeah.
collaborates. So we're excited to be able to do that.
All right, let's shift gears, go toward the state. I know recently there were letter grades put out by the state. And I think you need to explain how the criteria shifted on you guys midstream, and then how that differs from what the federal government, how they grade different school districts. Just kind of give us a rundown of that and where Bedford County sits now.
Well, we have two different accountability systems. You had a federal accountability system, you have a state accountability system. Since I think it was 2017, they've been saying that we're going to get school letter grades. Well, COVID hit, the testing messed up. There were all kinds of things that happened as a result of us not having them. Well, they told us late fall, that we would be getting school letter grades this year. Then they said, well, the formula is going to change, because it used to be that the federal formula was what you kind of used as overall accountability. Well, the business world, is what we heard, had pushed to have parents have a school letter grade that's one letter grade that represents what the school has been doing. So the first week of December, they rolled that formula out. We have to remember that the formula came, but the students took the test last year in April or May. So I know you're a sports person, so we kind of felt like they've developed the rules after you'd already played the game.
Move the goalpost. Yeah.
So, and we are all about accountability, but going in, I'd love to know the rules before we play the game.
I
Well,
compare
honestly,
it too in the school system, in the education world. It's like you took the test and then the teacher handed you the rubric,
right.
or you wrote the essay and then the teacher handed you the rubric and said, now here's what you're graded on.
Yeah.
Would be nice to know enough time in advance to prepare.
I think that just shows kind of how government works, that you guys are in real time and they're in another world somewhere. They're slower paced. You guys have to deal with stuff day to day and hour by hour, and you're on the fly. And then this comes in drifting in later on a draft or something.
Yes.
It's weird.
Yeah,
So,
I'd like to cover, though, if we would have stayed with the same formula that we thought compared to what we actually did. So if you look at the formula, the federal formula, if they would have scored us like we thought, we would have had 2 A's, 8 B's, 3 C's, and 1 D. On the state, the way they just rolled out, we had 1 A, 4 B's, 6 C's, 1 D, and 2 F's.
right.
So we did better on the federal than we did. And you're talking about they were judged on different things.
Right.
And if you add up those numbers, talk about BCVS, our virtual school.
Mm-hmm. I took it off of this one. There was a BCVS that they scored a B, but I took it off those
You're
numbers.
adding those up. That's the difference.
Mhm.
Yeah. So those people that do have concerns, they see these letter grades. Oh my gosh, 2 F's. But I just think that the progress that Bedford County school system has made over the last 3 or 4 years has been phenomenal.
Well, I
And you're
appreciate
you're dealing with an issue that's national. When you look at an open border and you have that, people filtering into our system, I know Bedford County's hit real hard with just add-ons throughout the year, and we're up to 9,100 students.
9,100. A lot of those, we're up pushing about 40% Hispanic. A lot of those do not speak English. And I am really glad that you brought that up, because people do not think the border crisis impacts us as a school system. As a county, it does.
Yes.
We see it every day. Right around Thanksgiving, we were seeing a lot at Shelbyville Central High School. I can remember 1 week, we had 18 just at Shelbyville Central alone, non-English speaking students enroll. And the federal government requires you, every time you have 35 students, to hire another teacher. Well, that impacts your budget significantly if you're adding 18 a week.
Well, where are you going to find them?
Yes.
That's the other question.
Uh-huh.
Where do they come from? So,
We had a town hall last night regarding the rezoning due to Cartwright Elementary. And, our goal is to get students out of portables.
Right.
And Dr. Garrett's worked so hard on that. And we've made so much progress. But Cartwright will get students at Aiken and East Side out of portables. And there'll be a few coming from Cascade that are right there near Cartwright Elementary. But last night we held a town hall before the board officially votes on the zoning for Cartwright to get feedback from parents most impacted. And we're going to have another one at Eastside. But at Aiken last night, we had about 180 in attendance.
wow, that's good.
But we had 4 translators there, and that was wonderful because I would say 80% of the attendees were Spanish speaking or English as a second language. And so that just shows you it was such a great example of what our educators deal with when they're teaching each day and the
Right.
language barriers. And
Well, those numbers play out to about 40%.
Yes, they
Just
do.
the way they go out throughout the
Yes.
system.
And I know people like to pick apart the F's, but I'm not the kind of person that's going to use excuses. I'm going to work hard and try
Right.
to improve always on the on the playing field, the court, the classroom, whatever. So we will figure out how to do better. And I want to also talk about Cascade High School. It's a scale of 1 to 5. They had 4.9 out of 5. That is exceptional.
That's
That
big.
has to be one of the best in the state.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. How does the demographics there stack up compared to other schools? Are you is that school at an advantage because they don't have to deal with quite as much of the English as a second language?
Well, if you look at research, achievement is very highly correlated with economic status.
Right.
But I will not say that they've got some great things going on. They are very strategic.
Right.
The scores of a school, about 25% correlated to instructional leader of that school, but also community elementary.
Right.
They had 10 level 5 teachers. If I remember correctly, community elementary had 4.4 out of 5. Excellent. If you think of success, if you look at Harris, for years, Harris had scored below expectations. They were on the federal list of schools in
Right.
need of improvement. They had 3.5 out of 5. So I know that we can get on the F's, but I want people to look at the bright spots of
Right.
our program too. And at what point in society, I run into this with student report cards every day. Everybody thinks you ought to have an A or B, but we got to remember C is average,
Yeah.
right? C
Yeah.
is average.
Right.
C is average.
You got a lot of above average there on
Yeah.
your list. So
Uh-huh.
that's good. So I would say just in general, Bedford County school system is trending upward.
We are. You can look at historical data and see that we have made great progress. Are there some things that we still need to work on? Absolutely. And we will. We've already made some changes at the ones that struggled, and we will continue. I think you will see that those will improve. I have no doubt that they will.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for sitting down with us today and just sharing this information. I know there's a lot of good information about the closing and then this letter grade system. I know there's been questions that have popped up with that, and it's good to get a good, clear explanation of what you guys are dealing with. And I want to thank you guys for sitting down.
Well, thank you for everything you do for our schools and our sports programs.
Absolutely. We love doing it, and we look forward to having you guys back again. And Carol, I'm sure I'll be getting emails from you on a regular basis, and I
Absolutely.
appreciate those
Yeah.
because I like to get information out, and you guys are awesome at doing it. Thanks for sitting down. Guys, thanks for watching. We'll be back again real soon with Dr. Garrett later, and hopefully we'll see Miss Carol later also. Thanks for watching. See you soon.